Hello, I'm Don Mooers, and welcome to Montgomery Week in Review. It's not clear what could be happening with immigration policy in the next several weeks, but after the next election, there's likely going to be a wholesale change in political leadership. What's going to happen? A lot of what ifs. That's what Mariana Cordier, a local attorney, she's going to be talking about today. A large part of the Montgomery County landscape is comprised of the Agricultural Reserve. And this December, the League of Women Voters has been discussing issues regarding the reserve. Elaine Apter from the League is here to join us and tell us all about it. Unfortunately, ring in the holidays also sometimes means ring in the dangerous scams. There's a lot to look out for this year, especially. And Henry Hailstock, a regular part of this program, is here to help walk us through and give some warnings to us. There have been some, let's call them irregularities, that's the right word, perhaps, in the way that the registration of new voters took place in our recent elections. Graciela Rivera-Oven, a member of the Board of Elections, is here to give us insights about what may have taken place in the lead up to this last election. Mariana Cordier, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Immigration and politics. Do those two words go together?
Unfortunately, they need to go together because what we're seeing now is President Obama has done his executive order.
Now, tell us a little bit about that executive order before we get into the politics. He's given full amnesty to all these people, right?
I like that word, amnesty, but it's not quite. But what he has done is he's given people an opportunity who have been in the country, who have children who are born here, U.S. citizens, to be able to not be in line for deportation or removal, and to be able to be on track for getting, hopefully, some legitimization, their papers, to be able to remain in the country legally. And they're hardworking people who pay taxes, and so it's the right thing to do. It's right up there with what he's done in the past for the Dreamers. And so this is something that's important for the country because, as we all know, immigration reform has not occurred.
Right.
And so we have the legislature that is going to be controlled by the Republicans, and both House and Senate.
Right.
So the chances really, realistically, of anything happening with immigration reform that would be reflective of what the community is really seeking.
Well, which community? Because I know the business community has issues, Latino community has issues, U.S., my understanding, coming from what Republicans seem to be talking about right now, is that they want to follow perhaps a piecemeal approach as opposed to the president's comprehensive approach. Is that something that you're also hearing?
I think so. I think the piecemeal that they want is to spend money on building a wall, having more agents to enforce the borders, all the things that aren't necessarily what we really need at the moment. We have enforcement, we have border control, it's just a question, of handling that immigration. But we also have to internally deal with the fact that we have a large Latino community, and it's not the only community. There is a large foreign community that has immigrated to the United States, because a lot of this gets kind of overshadowed by the Latino community, but you have the Asian American, you have the African, you have the Caribbean, you have literally many people, and that's what's so great about this country, is that it's comprised of such a mixing bowl of individuals. But the immigration reform that we need is not in place to deal with these issues, and also it's an overall issue, the foreign policy that brings us our immigrants as well.
This is something that is not new. It's just come to the forefront now. Our system is broken, just like education system is broken. They need to fix that, and they don't really want to look at that. They just want to do a preventive thing, keep people out, which is really ridiculous. They're not really going to keep people out. So fix the system, work on preventive, work on making the system work so that people can go through and become U.S. citizens as they want to in this land.
Yeah, another thing we think of is crossing the border and just, putting the walls up and things. But many of these immigrants have come in legally through green cards and visas and things, and just kind of got lost and overstayed those. So, just putting walls up is not really going to help the problem.
Right, it's not a solution. And the other portion of this whole issue is that the humanitarian, the human rights issues, separating children from their parents, the issue of the dreamers that through no fault of their own they're here, and why deny them education, tuitions, the in-state tuitions, the ability to get a job and work and move forward. And particularly because these individuals have something to contribute and are contributing to our way of life and our system. And you see the immigrant community has support from the business community, the businesses that use immigrant laborers, like the migrant workers, and for the farms and for
the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, even 3 years ago, came forefront and said that an immigration reform needed to be done in lieu of, in the best interest of the economy of the United States. This immigration comprehensive look leaves only less than half of the people it works for.
The president's executive action.
Executive action, right. It's like about 4.2 million. Right. You still have about 8 million people who are still in the shadows. It's temporary. It does not include the parents of the dreamers. It's really for those kids who were born in U.S. soil, and it only includes their parents and family members. So it is a temporary solution, and what some of us are very worried about is once President Obama comes out of office, what's going to happen next? So the leadership really of Congress needs to get together and try to actually pass something that is comprehensive and holistic for the 12 million people.
Well, this is going to be a battle anyway in Congress, because they're trying to overturn what the president has put in there.
Well, they try to overturn anything he does.
Hey guys, this will be great.
Story.
We can go on and on.
That's another
Mariana,
story.
thank you for the story. You've just got everybody involved here.
We could do a whole show on it.
Well, and many shows. My whole career is actually based on it. So, hey, welcome back, Elaine Apter.
It's great to be back.
It is good to see you. So we're talking about horses.
Basically, yeah.
What's going on?
We're talking about what's going on with the agriculture community in Montgomery County. The U.S. Department of Agriculture every 5 years does a survey of farms around the country, and this just was published.
Okay.
And so it breaks it down by county, so we now know a little bit more about what's going on in Montgomery County, and we're really reflective of the rest of the country. Our farmers are getting older. Farms are getting smaller. They're not making as much. But one of the things that Montgomery County did was in 2004, when the Ag Reserve was really getting a little iffy and there was a lot of pressure, they decided to say that horses, the equine industry, was agriculture. Now, the U.S. does not say that, the Department of Agriculture, but Montgomery County does. This allowed horses and horse farms and riding stables and things to go in to the Ag Reserve. And we now have in Montgomery County almost 10,000 horses.
Well, so to keep that rural look and still have that be economically viable. Now,
they allowed the horse industry, and another one is horticulture has become very big.
The pick your own or bring it close to markets.
But horticulture doesn't have as much effect on the environment as the horses.
I mean, a negative impact.
Negative,
so,
fairly, yeah.
So what is the negative impact from the horses?
One of the things is horses.
Have you ever lived around them?
You won't even know it. That's one.
You ever lived around them?
What I didn't realize is a horse is heavy, and it impacts
the ground,
the soil, and so you don't get as much, grass and stuff growing, or it's more impervious than regular soil. So that's one effect.
Not as good drainage.
Right.
It's all a lot more runoff.
So that's an effect that I really was not that aware of. Now, when we talk about the nutrient, all the horse farms, all the farmers have to have a nutrient management system. But they don't need soil conservation and water quality. And that's what the county would like to see them get. It's voluntary. And of course, the farmers, like anybody else, are saying, "Hey, wait a minute! You know, we
Yeah,
don't
we don't
need
want
any more
we don't want our water to
regulation."
taste funny.
Yeah, need more regulation. Yeah.
So one of the things the county is probably looking at is maybe some ways to help the industry
Okay.
get these soil conservation and water quality management systems in. So maybe a little help up front financially, maybe just ideas and ways that they can do this and just help them. And so these are some tax breaks.
Well,
if they
I think
put
the
this
problem
in.
with agriculture has been historically always that the traditional farming community is struggling. You know, farming in the United States is a corporate matter now. It's no longer really, you know, the regular farmer. And the compensation and the struggle and the cost is so prohibitive in some way, or it's a hard life. So it makes it really difficult to encourage and maintain the traditional agricultural community
Well,
that we need ultimately.
Well, you think about that. I can understand why it's going to big corporations, because number one, it helps them. But look at what's happening. It's not a family thing anymore. The young people are going, getting educated, and moving on and doing other things, going into careers that they're studying for in college. Not all of them are coming back, and that's one reason. So you have, as you say, older families. They're struggling, and it's difficult. So some of them are selling off their land to developers.
They can't in the Ag Reserve, and that's what's so wonderful, and we are very unique. The other thing Montgomery County has is they have a new farmers program where farmers, experienced farmers, will help new farms get going. They have a land link where if I have quite a few acres, I can, you know, designate a small parcel, and a new farmer can come in and I can help them work the land.
A lot of mentoring and,
Yeah,
and
mentoring.
extension.
So
Sure.
Montgomery County is really working very hard, and I'm very proud of them. And the other thing is they've had just recently is an equipment leasing system, and this is through the Farm Bureau. So you have to be a member of the Farm Bureau. But they've got a grant, and they have bought large equipment that a small farmer cannot afford.
Good.
And they're leasing
Pull it
this
out.
equipment out if you're a member of the Farm Bureau. And
Okay.
this has just started. So
Well-
there's some things going on that will hopefully help the farmer.
I gotta tell you, as a former agricultural extension agent, as I was, I love talking. We never talk enough about
I
agriculture on
know,
the show.
it really
in
is
Montgomery
fun
County.
stuff.
We'll be right back after these messages.
Hope that doesn't wind up.
Henry Hailstock, as always, it's fantastic to have you back. I'm not sure, we've talked a little bit about coming out of your business background a number of times. Holidays, this is bad business we're talking about, scams. Be on the alert.
If it's too good to be true, it probably is.
Amen.
And believe that. I mean, it's amazing how people come up with schemes just to try to get your money, get your identity, and everything else. I mean, I was involved with a scam. I got an email that was supposedly from my bank,
Right.
and saying that there's something wrong with your paying the bill, your bill payment. Call this number to get clarity. So I called the number, and they answered, and they said, "Oh yes, email. Give me your Social Security number." Right then and there, I got concerned because your bank first asks you the security questions,
And
so
they're
I
only
s-
going to ask you the last four numbers of the
Yeah,
anybody
that
who's,
too.
who's
That too.
real is only going to do that.
So I, I said, well, basically, I don't like to give that up, but this is your bank. I said, well, I have a concern about giving out my Social Security number. What's the problem? Just tell me the problem, and then we can go from there.
Can't tell you that until we know your identity.
And that's exactly what they
Of
said.
course, Henry.
So they said, well, call your bank and call up if you're really concerned. So I did. I called up Capital One, and they said, I went through the security questions. Then they said, okay, give me your personal information. Knowing that I called the bank, I didn't have a problem in doing that. They said, well, we don't have any, problems with you paying the bills and everything. How did you, get to that understanding? I said, well, I got an email. We didn't send an email for that. They said, let me let you talk to the manager. So the manager came on very puzzled and said, sir, can you send us a copy of the email? Because, you know, there's nothing wrong with your account. And basically, we like to know about this because we feel it's a scam. I'm glad I didn't do that. I'm very hesitant about giving out my information, particularly your Social Security number, and you need to be aware of that.
You know, and it's more than that. It's your date of birth. It's your address, because the how technologically advanced many of these people who commit identity theft and fraud is amazing, and they just need a little thread, a little piece of information.
Absolutely.
And from there they can access a whole
There
lot.
they go in and get loans. They go in,
Credit cards.
You get new credit
Oh,
cards.
they sell your information as well.
And that too. And that too. The other thing I know that all of y'all probably had gotten emails from some friends that are overseas.
Yeah, they're
and
stuck.
said, look,
yeah.
somebody stole my passport, it stole my money, and I can't get home. Can you please send me some money?
Yeah, actually, that happened to me
Is that right?
with a good friend, and she actually believed that I was out of the country, and she sent in $1,000.
Yeah.
I felt terrible.
Yeah, no, what they do is they break into your email, they get your contacts,
Yeah.
and then
Yes,
they send a
exactly.
blast. The other one that you'll see also that's very common is Amazon sends out an email saying that you've won some kind of, lottery or whatever, and that if you send them your information, your address, your name, date of birth, whatever, they'll send you the check for the $1,000 or whatever it is.
Fantastic.
And people, and it looks kind of official because it looks like, I think it's Google or Amazon.
It's both.
And
It's both.
and so you look at it and you see their logo and you think it's official, but it's not. And
Well, what
so-
about the emails or letters that you get
Right.
saying you just are eligible to win this free trip,
Right.
plane trips and everything else? Give us a call. You call up and they say, oh yes, you're eligible. All we need is your information so that we can secure it, and we need to just to make sure that you go to the resort and everything and go through the tours and all. We need a deposit of.
and we need your credit card number.
Yes,
Yeah.
you can
So
do it
then
through the
they-
credit card.
All right.
But the worst kind, I think, of scams are those where they actually prey on the tragedy of other human beings. And I think when we see that, it yanks into our heart. And if it's a child with cancer or so on, you can always check those actually, by
Right.
either
And a
calling, or by calling the school that the child's mentioned on, or by. But I actually got a call from a friend who she gave quite a lot of money to this cause, and they just used somebody's picture, and when they actually went into seeing the account, it was $100,000 that they had raised based on that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's a
think,
shame.
Henry, one of the biggest
This
items
is the last comment here.
that
Elaine.
Henry made was, if it's suspicious, hang up and call the authority that you know.
Oh, yeah,
because
absolutely.
and that's the key.
That's
Yeah.
That's a great way to finish this segment.
Right.
Henry, thank you. I mean, this conversation is really, you've hit a raw nerve here.
Well, hit at factual thing. Watch out for them, please, especially during the holidays.
Yep.
Yes.
And if you have any questions, just call 1-800-HENRY Hailstock.
There you go.
He'll let
Well,
you know
there-
which friend
you
you're
Let
can
you
call
know.
the county
Let you know.
police.
Okay.
Yeah.
No,
Hello there.
you should call the county police actually. if you have any
Gracie, I think, should we call the county police about these these election scams? I mean, people are
There's
people
no election scams
no,
going
that's what I
on.
understand. I mean, people are changing
No.
MVA.
It's not
everywhere.
people.
What's going
No,
on?
let's not be so alarmist about. Oh
This
my
last
gosh.
election.
Yeah, exactly. I know
So Larry
that
Hogan didn't actually win?
I know there's been. You're terrible.
No, I don't know. I'm just asking.
And I'm sticking
I
to
know
my
that- I know
to
you're
my
on the-
story
I
here.
know that you're the cutting edge story, so this is why you're in the cleanup spot.
So we had an election. I'm going to talk to Henry. So we had an election, Henry, and it went really well. Actually, 23% of it could have been a lot better.
Right.
That's
I was gonna say
one of the lowest actually turnouts.
Right.
And so there's been a lot going on. I think with the elections, there was a task force formed in the county, and I think the league followed that very closely. And there were quite a few recommendations. some that can be done locally, but some that takes legislative action, and only the state actually can make changes. And the question of how to actually get more voters involved in elections, and also the age difference of younger voters not being as involved. So, but anyway, while we were going through this election, we got a few cases where when you go to MVA, they ask you if you want to register to vote and so on. So you can actually register to vote or become a donor and so on. So everything's great. But when maybe you go back and you want to maybe change your address or just do some update on your license, we got a couple of cases where people's actually party affiliation were changed during that process. And so that was, that was a question for concern. And
But it was changed by somebody else,
it
not
was
by the
changed-
original person who
No,
was.
it was changed during the MVA process. So we're asking MVA, and we're actually looking into doing asking the state to do an audit of the process of how actually this happens. These are a couple cases that we know of. So we have
these are the motor voters. That mostly young people who are getting their licenses, or people coming in from out of state.
No, it's across really. I don't think there's really an age.
No, but I mean, from MBA, I mean, who are the motor voters? What is the registration? Who comes into this?
Well, anybody really. If you
Anyone with a driver's license.
yeah.
No, but who are
getting-
they? I mean,
getting a
because
driver's
getting a driver's license. I mean, are they people who've now just moved into Montgomery County from elsewhere?
Not necessarily. No, it could be you.
No, I don't. I'm already registered. Most of us are registered.
No, but it could be you getting. You have to redo your license every 5 years, correct? Renew it.
Right, but I don't have to renew my registration.
No. But when you go and you renew your license, this is what happened to one of the individuals. They actually redid their voter registration and changed it.
Right, because
So
it makes
that's
The motor voter people did.
exactly.
No, but it makes sense because we're a closed primary state. So there's a lot of independents who maybe wanted to vote in the Democratic primary, the Republican primary. And so I was an independent, and I switched to be able to vote in the primary.
You're officially called a decline.
It's-
You're a decline to be
and
Republican.
then I think I'm
or
going
Democrat.
back to my independent
Back to
status
being
because
a
I like that
decliner.
status.
Decliner.
But that could be a scenario.
It could trigger it.
Yeah, it could trigger it.
Any changes that you want to make, or if you're
Anything that a human has to input gets to be a problem.
So the best way I think is to ensure when you leave MBA is to actually look, because they say, would you like to register to vote? You're like, oh no, I already did that. But you want to make sure that
They don't do it for you.
you actually look at it, make sure your information is all correct.
Correct. Yeah.
And actually, Grace helped me because when I went to do it, I didn't do it at MVA. I went online.
Which is
And
a little
so-
challenging too.
It
That's,
can-
I just want to say that's the State Board of Elections online.
No, but what's nice is if you want to make sure that you're properly registered to the right party and everything else, you can go check online what your registration says,
Right.
and make any corrections. I mean, I know that Henry's absolutely right. There's always the human error, right? But one of the ways to make sure is to be proactive and to
Right.
check your information, check your statuses.
Sure.
To be safe and avoid any
That's
confusion.
anywhere and any time. I'm
Right.
serious. Not just the Board of Elections or MVA,
Right.
but anywhere you go, the doctor's office, anywhere.
Yeah.
Check the information, make sure it's correct.
We've got 20 seconds. Any final words on this? I thought it was going to be a big scam, but it seems like it's something you just need to manage a little bit. Golly gee whiz, I'm so disappointed.
I know you are. I can see it.
Wait for big news here. NBA changes all the registrations.
No.
Oh my God!
Last word.
You're
last
gonna
word.
get a phone call.
No, I know.
Last word, real quick.
No, just do what Mariana did. You can always go online and check all your information.
Okay, and her cell phone number is also on the website. So please call her home. Listen, folks, I want to thank you for joining me today, and I want to thank all of you in the viewing audience for joining us for this week's edition of Montgomery Week in Review. I'm Don Mooers. Looking forward to seeing you at the same place, same time next week.
It's gonna be simple.